And welcome back, and it is the 22nd of April today, higher plus 5 a day, and let's just jump straight in. Write down, well, this is math command word for just there shouldn't be much working going on at all here. So I look at that graph, I can see it's between -1 and 1, I can see it starts at 1, it feels like trigonometry, and indeed this is the equation y equals cos x. So that's what I'm going to write down. Next question, easy start, good start. The width of the rectangle is equal to the length of each side of a square. Okay, quick diagram, I think. So here's my rectangle, which is x. There's my width, and there's my square, which is x. The length of the rectangle is 6 centimeters less than 4 times its width. Okay, great. So 4 times its width is 4x, take away 6. The area of the square is 504 less than the area of the rectangle. Okay, so this is where we get to clear working out. So the area of the rectangle is x times 4x minus 6. And the area of the square is x squared. And if I add 504, then these things are equal. And that's given me an equation. So I've got an equation, I can solve the equation. So x times 4x minus 6 is equal to x squared plus 504. Expand, so 4x squared minus 6x minus x squared minus 504 equals 0. Collect my x squareds, which are giving me 3x squared, minus 6x and minus 504. It all divides by 3, which is quite good. So therefore, divide by 3, that's going to give me x squared minus 2x minus 168 equals 0. Now, as I've said in other videos, you may not know your 12 and your 14 times table, but you do more math, you do come across these numbers. I know this is going to be x minus 14, x plus 12. If you don't see it straight away, then quadratic formula. I say that all the time, but it's really important. You get better at it, but don't risk an exam or don't risk marks in an exam just to try and be clever and be too quick. Either way, that tells me that x equals minus 12. Well, it's not, because x is greater than 0, or x equals 14, which it is. What does it want me to do? Find the perimeter of the rectangle. Okay, now I'm going to do it here. So therefore, the perimeter of the rectangle is going to be, well, we've worked out that x is 14, so it's going to be 14 and 14 here. 4 times 14 is going to be 56, and 56 minus 6 is 50. So that's 50 and that's 50, which means if I add it all together, 50 plus 50 is 100, plus 28 is going to give me 128 centimeters. And that is the answer to that question. Nice problem-y style question, but very well set up. Next question. Write in the form of this. Okay, well, what's nice here is it tells me how it wants the answer, but that also means that I need to give the answer in that format. This is my issue. So the way I'm going to deal with this is I'm going to multiply top and bottom by root 2. And if you don't see why yet, you'll see why when I do the second step. So first step is just 6 root 2. Nice and straightforward. Second step, root 2 divided by root 2 is 1. And root 2 times root 2 is 2. And you can see I've got rid of the whole problem on the bottom. And so that just gives me 6 root 2 over 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So my answer is 2 root 2. Nice question, that one. Good question. Next question. Find the value of. Now, I'm going to use the minus to turn it upside down, reciprocal. So that's 216 over 125. The 3 means the cube root. And then I'm just going to do the whole thing to the power of 4. So let's do the cube root. So the cube root of 216 is 6. The cube root of 125 is 5. Or to the power of 4. Well, I'm not going to pretend I know what 6 to the power of 4 is. So calculator out. And that is 1296 divided by 625. And that's question done. Nice question, that one. Next and final question today. So we have 3D trig. Shown is a square based pyramid. Find the angle between the face ABE, okay, and the base ABCD. So I need this angle here. So I need that angle there. Now in order to work that out, think about what I've got. So let's call this M. I've got a problem because I don't know one of the sides. Okay, I'm going to have to do something else instead, first of all. So let's consider A, D, C. So look at the floor, look at the base. I've got A, D, C, and it tells me it's square base. That's 20, and that's 20, which means A to C is going to be 20 squared plus 20 squared square rooted, which is going to be, well, 20 squared plus 20 squared square rooted is going to be 20 root 2. Which means, crucially, that I know that, think about A to M to C. So I've got A to C, and I've got M in the middle, which is the point that I made up. I know this must be half of that, which is 10 root 2, and I know this is 10 root 2 as well. Why do I care about that? Because now all of 3D trig is just about getting different triangles. So now let's look at the triangle E to M to B. I know from the diagram that E to B is 26 because that's the long diagonal side. I know B to M is 10 root 2 because I've just worked it out, which means that this length here is going to be 26 squared minus 10 root 2 squared. So again, you can either do it with or without a calculator, but probably this is going to be a calculator exam. So calculator out, 26 squared minus 10 root 2 squared. Again, a bit of a calculator exercise to make sure you're okay with it. And that gives me 2 root 119. So definitely not something I could guess or do off the top of my head. Crucially, I've now got everything I need. So let's go back to the very first triangle I drew on the picture. So I've got M to, well, I haven't labelled this, so let's label this F. So I've got M to F to E. I know, because I've just worked it out, this is 2 root 119. I know M to F is halfway across, so it's 10, which means the angle I care about, we've got there eventually. So theta is tan minus 1, opposite over hypotenuse, 2 root 119 over 10. Again, calculator out, so tan minus 1, type it carefully, so 2 root 119 over 10, which gives me 65.4 degrees. And that's today done. I quite enjoyed the questions today. I thought there were some very fair, very nice questions. Nothing too hard. So, 4 out of 5 difficulty, 3.5 out of 5. So definitely not too hard, but equally really good test of your understanding. As ever, let me know how you did. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.